why these non-curved katana existed during the Meiji Restoration. Because of that, they wanted to use a katana that doesn't have a curve. Let's quickly take a look at the history of Japanese katana martial arts. Minasan konnichiwa, and welcome to Let's Ask Shogo. One of Japanese katana's biggest characteristic is that it's curved, right? However, there are some katana that aren't. Oh yeah, you're talking about this ancient Japanese swords, right? Nope, I'm not. This straight katana was used by a group of swordsmen who fought in the Meiji period. Who were they? Why did they use these katana? By unraveling this mystery, we can see why katana and Budo martial arts are still important in Japan today. So today, I'll explain the purpose of curvature on a katana. Next, I will explain the historical process that led to the creation of the straight katana. Finally, I will explain how history was changed by the straight sword and the men who handled it. Be sure to watch this video till the end, as it will incredibly deepen your knowledge of the history of the katana and the martial arts. If you have any other questions about katana after watching this video, please let me know in the comments. In this channel, you can take a closer look at Japanese culture, tips on traveling to Kyoto, and social problems in Japan. So learners and lovers of Japanese language and culture, be sure to subscribe to enjoy more content. それでは本日も参りましょう。First of all, let's talk about why Japanese katana are curved in the first place. 1. Easier to draw. 2. Makes the feeling of the blade lighter. 3. It becomes sharper. The sword, the origin of the katana, was introduced from the continent in ancient times and was not curved. In the Heian period, samurai warriors were born and began to fight on horseback, which led to the demand for swords that could be drawn stably even on horseback. As a result, curves were added to the katana. In iaijutsu and other forms of katana fighting, how quickly you draw a katana determines whether you win or lose. However, katana used in actual combat were quite long, and if they weren't curved, you might not be able to draw them out so smoothly. That's why tachi, which are generally longer than uchikatana, tend to be more curved. Second, the curvature changes the weight of the katana when you hold it. For example, if you have a 1,200 gram katana and a 900 gram katana, you may not always feel that the 1,200 gram katana is heavier. This is because the curvature allows the center of gravity of the katana to be shifted closer to the hand. However, suppose the center of gravity is placed completely toward the hand. In that case, disadvantages such as reduced cutting and striking power and disturbed blade line easily are likely to occur. So the balance is important. Finally, curvature increases sharpness. Swords without curvature are weapons for striking and thrusting rather than for cutting. In contrast, the katana is a weapon specialized for cutting, so a drawing motion is always required. This is the same as when cutting food with a kitchen knife. Therefore, the curvature of the katana is designed so when the blade is swung, the sword's tip naturally forms an arc. However, on the other hand, a thrusting attack with a katana is weaker than with a straight sword. Thus, it can be said that the evolution of the katana to its present form resulted from pursuing the most efficient form over the more than 1,000-year history of the katana. Then, why were Japanese katana without a curvature used during the Meiji period? Then, let's finally move on to today's leading topic. Why were katana without curves suddenly used on a battlefield at the end of the 20th century? It was the specially assembled police force known as the Batoutai that used the non-curvature katana. They were the men who were recruited to win the hand-to-hand combat during the Seinan War against Saigo Takamori. Hold on, you have to explain the history because I don't get a thing. Of course, leave it to me. Then, let's quickly review the history of the Bakumatsu era, the end of the Edo period. At the end of the 19th century, after more than 200 years of very limited trade with foreign countries, Japan finally opened its doors to the rest of the world. This was because the US at that time, in search of whale oil that could be obtained from whales caught near Japan, wanted to use Japanese ports as supply points for water and food. Japan opened its borders as orders in the face of the overwhelming military power of the United States. But this was the beginning of the Great Confusion. Dissatisfaction with the shogunate, which had followed American orders without a fight, exploded in many parts of the country. Many samurai clans gradually united and finally overthrew the shogunate after many wars. They founded the Meiji government and created a new nation, utilizing Western technology and knowledge. One of their leaders was Saigo Takamori. As an army general, he was an important contributor to the establishment of the Meiji government. Still, he gradually began to argue with the other leaders about how new government should be run. He eventually left the new government he helped build and went home to Kagoshima Prefecture to establish a school. Young people who were dissatisfied with the new government gathered under Saigo Takamori and tried to start a war. The Meiji government was aware of Saigo Takamori's strength and was cautious of him. Finally, the anger of the young people who gathered around Saigo exploded, leading to war. This was the final domestic war in Japanese history, the Seinan War. The Meiji government had the advantage over the Saigo forces because of its overwhelming military power. But what we must not forget is that Saigo Takamori was the formal army general. His men were very strong in close quarters combat on land, and the Meiji government continued to lose. A newly organized group of men was gathered to win the close quarters combat. These men were called the Batoutai. They were men who were especially strong in kendo among the police, and it is said that thanks to their efforts, the Meiji government was able to win the Seinan War. That's right, the shinai bamboo swords used in kendo are not curved. Because of that, they wanted to use a katana that doesn't have a curve. In fact, the reason why kendo still has the largest number of competitors today and why it has become the most popular martial art among police officers is because of the success of the Batoutai. If the Batoutai had not existed, Japanese Budo could have disappeared as an outdated culture during the changes of the Meiji Restoration. Now, we have finally solved the mystery of why these non-curved katana existed during the Meiji Restoration. However, I'm sure there's a question you still have in mind. Why were men training kendo assembled and not kenjutsu, which was actually used in warfare? The mystery of the non-curved katana has not been fully solved yet. Let's move on to the next chapter. Then next, let's quickly take a look at the history of Japanese katana martial arts. The first katana-related martial art that was born was kenjutsu. Kenjutsu is the art of fighting with the katana drawn in war. New sword techniques were developed from there as the Sengoku period ended and the peaceful Edo period began. Iaido, for example, began as a technique for fighting in emergency situations where the katana is often held at the waist in a sheath rather than drawn in times of peace. The Edo shogunate then forbade samurai to fight each other, except under certain conditions for the country's peace. In other words, by law, a samurai always walked around with two katana at his waist, but rarely used them in actual combat anymore. Kendo was created by people who were concerned that this situation might lead to the loss of the samurai spirit. Kendo is practiced wearing protective gear and using shinai for safety. So it didn't violate any of the samurai government's laws, and it gave the samurai a great opportunity to train the sword's path. However, this opportunity was not only for the samurai. A blade shorter than a wakizashi could be carried by anyone for self-defense. The samurai were privileged to carry both the long uchikatana and short wakizashi simultaneously. This means Yaijutsu, Batojutsu could only be trained by samurai who are allowed to own these katana in the first place. But again, in kendo, you train with shinai. So regardless of social class, anyone was able to train kendo. For example, the famous Shinsengumi, the Mibu Wolves, were originally a group of peasants. But the reason formal peasants were suddenly able to become the special police of Kyoto was because they trained kendo. The battle time was the same. People with excellent kendo skills were selected by the Meiji government police, regardless of their status during the Edo period. We learned so much about Japanese history just by unraveling the history of this non-curved katana. Please let me know if you still have any other questions in the comments. Then lastly, today's conclusion. In this video, we discussed the history and why non-curved katana exist. Why are katana generally curved? 1. Easier to draw. 2. Makes the feeling of the blade lighter. 3. It becomes sharper. The specially assembled police force, talented trained in kendo, the Batoutai, used the non-curvature katana. They were the men who were recruited to win the hand-to-hand combat during the Seinan War against Saigo Takamori. Kendo was a katana martial art that anyone, regardless of social class, trained during the Edo period. People with excellent kendo skills were selected by the Meiji government police, regardless of their status during the Edo period. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If this video helped you to deepen your understanding towards the Japanese katana, please hit the like button to help me boost this video to more people. And my goal is to achieve 2 million subscribers by the end of 2024, so your help would mean a lot. And by the way, all of the other activities that I do are in the description box, so please don't forget to check that out too. and I'll see you in my next video. 皆さんどうもありがとうございました。Interested in training katana skills from anywhere worldwide with Let's Ask Shogo? Join the Yushin-Ryu online lessons to learn how to perform the cool and unique EI techniques from modern-day Musashi Yushin-sensei. I, Shogo, a third-dan trainee of the style myself, will be your interpreter to explain everything perfectly in English for you. Every lesson will be recorded for you to rewatch anytime, and official dan ranks will be provided to prove your progress. Check out the description box or pinned comment to sign up now and for more information. So when we talk about straight, non-curved katana, I think the first thing that would come to mind, well, at least for me, are the ancient swords that originally came from China. In the main part of the video, I mentioned that it came from the continent. That's of course China back at that time. So that would be the first thing that would come to my mind. But I think for many people, also the ninja sword might come to their minds too. But the thing is that I've also explained this in my videos too in the past. But ninja swords, technically, we don't really know if they actually existed in the time when the ninjas were really working as spies or fighting and such. Many people point out that it's just a creation that was made when ninjas became more of a character, basically, for stories. Yeah. So there, what should I say, are actual old, ninja swords that came out of the ground or something like that, So maybe straight swords did exist before the Battle Tai 2. Yeah, I mean, this non-curved katana that the Battle Tai used are probably the most famous. Yeah, but before that too, I'm pretty sure non-curved katana already did exist. Maybe it could have been the ninjas that used it. It could have been, for example, the shikomizue, which are the sword canes, you call them in English. The swords are hidden inside the canes like the one that Zatoichi uses. Those were probably used by some spies and such too. So those were actually straight as well. Yeah, but do you refer to them as a katana? That's the difficult part. Yeah, exactly. So I focused talking about the Battle Tai swords today. But if you have any other ideas for non-curvature katana and such, I've been asking you so many requests for leaving comments and such. But it'd be great if you share your knowledge about if you know about any other non-curved katana in Japanese history.